Sabotaged by my own family. My stepdad tried to steal my fiancée for my brother, caught them red-handed and cut ties with them forever. Hi everyone, I'm Adam. If you asked me about the most important things in my life, I'd say without hesitation it's my fiancée Madison and my aspirations. But family? That's complicated. I lost my mother 3 years ago, and since then, living with my stepfather Richard and stepbrother Derek has been a challenge that I struggle to navigate every day. Richard has been my stepfather since I was 10. I always knew he preferred Derek, his biological son, but after my mother passed, it became glaringly obvious. Derek, who's just a year younger than me, could do no wrong in Richard's eyes. This dynamic has deeply affected our family atmosphere, infusing it with a tension that's almost palpable. For instance, last month, Derek managed to secure a small client for his fledgling online marketing business. It was all Richard talked about for weeks. Derek's really carving out a niche for himself. He'd boast to anyone who'd listen, his pride unmistakable. Meanwhile, I recently landed a major account at the marketing firm where I work, potentially bringing in a significant amount of business. Richard's response? A mere grunt of acknowledgement and a quick change of topic. It stings, not just the lack of recognition, but the feeling of being perpetually overshadowed by Derek, no matter my achievements. This favoritism isn't just painful, it's also morphed into a source of underlying resentment within our home. It's like walking on eggshells, where any moment, the fragile peace might crack under the weight of Richard's partiality. Despite this, I try to keep my head down and focus on what truly matters, my future with Madison. Madison has been my rock through all this. We met during our sophomore year in college, and it was as close to love at first sight as it gets. She's seen me at my best and my worst, standing by me through the loss of my mom and the ongoing struggles with my stepfamily. Her support is unwavering, her belief in us, unshakable. We're currently planning our wedding, poring over every detail with equal parts excitement and anxiety. Madison dreams of a small ceremony on the beach, intimate and serene, with close friends and family. We spend nights talking about our future, about buying a house with a big backyard, starting a family, and maybe even starting a business together someday. These aren't just plans, they're the building blocks of the life we're eager to build together, a life far removed from the constant comparisons and competitions with Derek. But no matter how much we plan, I can't shake the feeling of being the second son in Richard's eyes, always a step behind Derek. It's a shadow that looms over even the happiest moments, reminding me that in Richard's world, I'm just the stepson, forever on the outside looking in. This realization sharpens my focus not just on proving myself, but on creating a new life with Madison, one where love and merit outweigh any favoritism Richard could ever show. As the wedding planning progressed, Richard's subtle machinations began to take a darker turn, one I was unfortunately oblivious to. It started innocently enough, with Richard often inviting Madison over for coffee when I was at work. I thought nothing of it. After all, it was natural for Madison to spend time with my family, especially as we were about to become a proper family unit. However, Richard's intentions were far from benign. During these seemingly innocuous visits, Richard began to plant seeds of doubt in Madison's mind. You know, Madison, it's admirable how Adam is chasing his dreams, but don't you think a more stable career like Derek's is what you need in the long run? He would suggest. His words, carefully chosen, were designed to undermine my prospects and elevate Derek's more traditional, seemingly reliable career path. Derek, for his part, had always been neutral in our family's dynamics. Yet, influenced by Richard's persistent suggestions that he was somehow more deserving of someone like Madison, Derek's attitude began to shift. It was subtle at first, a compliment here, a compliment there. But soon, these interactions became more frequent and pointed, clearly orchestrated by Richard. Madison, caught off guard by Derek's newfound interest and Richard's insinuations, found herself increasingly uncomfortable. Each compliment, each shared moment that Richard facilitated between Derek and Madison added to her confusion and distress. However, she chose to keep these feelings to herself, wrestling internally with the implications. She didn't want to bring more stress into my life, knowing how strained things already were within the family, and she feared that voicing her concerns might lead to confrontations that could shatter the already fragile peace. This silence, though born out of love and consideration, only worsened matters. As Derek's attentions grew bolder, so did Madison's discomfort. She began to dread visiting our family home, feeling a tension she couldn't openly address without causing further problems. This internal struggle began to affect her demeanor. Her vibrant smile became less frequent, and her usual enthusiasm for wedding discussions dimmed. I noticed the change but mistakenly attributed it to pre-wedding nerves and stress. One evening, after a particularly awkward family dinner, where Derek had made yet another blatant attempt to charm Madison by offering to take over some of my responsibilities in the wedding preparations, Madison's facade finally cracked. We were alone, clearing up the dishes while Richard and Derek had retreated to the living room, presumably discussing something innocuous. "Adam, can we talk?" Madison's voice was tense, a clear sign that something was seriously wrong. "Of course," I responded, immediately alert. "What's going on?" "It's your father, and Derek." She hesitated, her voice trembling slightly. "I feel like there's this push, this strange encouragement for me to spend time with Derek. And the things your dad says, it's like he's trying to convince me that I'm making a mistake by marrying you." Hearing this, my heart sank. The reality of my family's interference became painfully clear, and the impact of Richard's and Derek's actions on Madison was more damaging than I had anticipated. The realization that my fiancé had been enduring this turmoil in silence, out of consideration for me, was both heartbreaking and infuriating. Madison's admission was a wake-up call. It was time to confront the toxic dynamics head-on, and such a chance came quite suddenly, to my surprise, the next day. I was returning to my stepfather's home earlier than usual due to a cancelled client meeting. Dad asked me to help him in the garage at last night's dinner. As I approached the house, the muffled tones of a conversation drifted through an ajar window, a window that serendipitously overlooked the cozy den where Richard and Derek were holed up. Normally, I would have announced my arrival immediately, but something in their tone, a certain urgency laced with secrecy, paused my steps. "You just need to be patient, Derek. Madison's beginning to see the differences between you two." Richard's voice was assertive, almost conspiratorial. "She's a smart girl. She'll realize you're the stable choice. It's just a matter of time." Derek's response was tinged with reluctance, yet carried an undertone of ambition. "I know, Dad. Just feel a bit strange by pushing Adam out like this. He's planning his life with her, after all." "Nonsense," Richard scoffed. "It's not about pushing Adam out. It's about showing Madison the best option. You're not stealing her away, you're just helping her see clearly. Besides, once she's with you, all of this will be better for everyone." My heart pounded in my ears, each word like a dagger twisting deeper. The cold realization that my own family was indeed actively scheming against me, manipulating my future happiness for their own perceived notions of stability, was both sickening and enraging. It was just as Madison had said. Fueled by a cocktail of betrayal and hurt, I pushed the door open and stormed into the den. The surprise on Richard and Derek's faces quickly morphed into discomfort as they saw the anger in my eyes. "What the hell is this?" I demanded, my voice booming louder than I intended. "You're plotting against me? Against Madison? How can you even justify this?" Richard, ever the manipulator, attempted to downplay the situation. "Adam, you're misunderstanding the conversation. We were merely discussing." "Discussing? You call plotting to break up my engagement a discussion?" I interrupted, my gaze flitting between him and Derek. "Adam, listen." Derek started, but I was too furious to let him finish. "No, you listen." I cut him off, my voice sharp and cold. "I trusted you, Derek. You're my brother, step or not. And you, Richard, you're supposed to be a father to both of us. How can you just sit here and decide who deserves happiness more?" The room charged with tension, the three of us ensnared in a standoff of moral convictions. Richard stood firm, his expression hardened into one of paternal authority gone awry. "Adam, I'm thinking about the future, about stability for the family. Derek provides a better prospect for Madison and for all of us." "Stability? At the cost of loyalty and love?" I shot back, the hurt bleeding through the anger now. "Is that what you teach? Is that what you stand for?" My patience frayed to its limits. "You both crossed a line. You've been conspiring right behind my back, trying to manipulate Madison's feelings based on your twisted view of who's the better man." The confrontation did not resolve the heartache, but instead laid bare the fractures within our family. Words had been hurled, truths uncovered, and the damage done seemed irreparable. As I left the room, the weight of their betrayal sat heavy on my shoulders. The path forward was unclear, but one thing was certain. Something had to change, and I had to think about not just my relationship with Madison, but also the kind of family dynamics I wanted to continue engaging with. The weeks following the confrontation had passed without incident, granting Madison and me the space to focus intently on our wedding plans. Yet, an unease lingered in my gut, a residual tension from the unresolved issues with Richard and Derek. It was a delicate time, and we both felt the weight of it as the wedding day approached. One crisp afternoon, we needed to pick up some of my mother's old wedding decorations from Richard's house. Understandably hesitant, I suggested that perhaps it was best if I didn't enter the house to avoid any unnecessary confrontation. Madison, ever understanding and keen to keep the peace, volunteered to go inside alone. "It'll be quick, Adam. I'll just grab what we need and come right out," she assured me, her voice calm, yet carrying an undercurrent of tension. I watched her disappear into the house, trying to quell the anxiety that fluttered in my chest. Minutes ticked by slowly, stretching longer than they should have. After 20 minutes had passed with no sign of Madison, my worry escalated into a tight knot of fear. I couldn't sit still any longer. I unbuckled my seatbelt and headed towards the house, my steps quick and determined. As I approached the living room, the low murmur of voices stopped me dead in my tracks. Heart pounding, I edged closer, my mind racing with possibilities. Peering around the corner, the scene before me sent a jolt of shock through my system. Madison and Derek were too close, their posture overly intimate. Derek's hand was on her arm, his body positioned in a way that cornered her against the wall. Madison's face was a mask of discomfort and confusion, her body language defensive. "Madison?" My voice broke the charged silence, sharp with hurt and accusation. They both turned abruptly. Madison's eyes widened in shock, filled with panic and regret, not guilt. "Adam, this isn't what it looks," Madison began, her voice trembling with distress. "How could you?" The words left my mouth before I could fully grasp the tableau, the pain of betrayal cutting deep. Derek, unflinching, met my gaze with a cold challenge. "It's not her fault, Adam. We were just talking and things got a little out of hand," he said smoothly, his tone infuriatingly calm. Madison shook her head desperately, stepping forward. "No, Adam, please listen. He wasn't taking no for an answer. I didn't want any of this," she pleaded, her voice earnest, imploring me to understand. The truth of her words, the genuine fear and confusion in her eyes, slowly began to sink in. This wasn't a clandestine affair, but a manipulated situation crafted by Derek, likely at Richard's behest. It was a setup, a play designed to sow discord and doubt. "Let's get out of here now," I said, reaching for Madison's hand. Her relief was palpable as she took my hand, and we quickly left the house together. The drive home after the distressing incident at Richard's house was shrouded in silence, a heavy, oppressive silence that seemed to magnify the tension between Madison and me. The weight of what had just occurred hung over us, a cloud of uncertainty and pain that neither of us could immediately dispel. As we entered our apartment, the familiar surroundings did little to ease the discomfort that pulsed between us like a live wire. Madison was the first to break the silence, her voice low and shaky as she recounted every detail of the interaction with Derek. She explained how she had initially gone to collect the decorations without any issue, but was caught off guard when Derek followed her into the room under the guise of helping. His behavior had quickly shifted, his intentions becoming clear as he maneuvered her into a compromising position. "I was scared, Adam," Madison confessed, her eyes glossy with unshed tears. "I tried to push him away, to make him stop, but he was stronger. And then you saw—" Her voice trailed off, the memory too painful to relive. Listening to her, I felt a surge of protectiveness, mixed with an undercurrent of guilt for even a moment's doubt at the scene I had witnessed. It was clear that Madison had been victimized, manipulated into a scenario designed to sow discord and distrust. The realization deepened my resolve, hardening into a decisive course of action. "Madison, I believe you," I said firmly, taking her hands in mine, feeling her slight tremble. "I should have never let you go in alone. This is on me, and I'm so sorry you had to go through that." The decision that followed was one of the hardest I had ever made, yet it felt absolutely necessary. I decided to cut off all contact with Richard and Derek. This meant excluding them from the wedding guest list, a decision that would inevitably cause a stir, but one that would protect both Madison and me from further manipulation and harm. Making this choice brought a tumultuous mix of relief and sorrow. Richard had been a part of my life for so long, despite everything. To sever ties so completely felt like uprooting a part of my history, a part of who I was. Yet, the pain they had caused, the deliberate actions taken to sabotage my happiness and Madison's well-being, left no room for doubt. As I removed their names from the guest list, each stroke of the pen felt like a strike for our future, a line drawn to safeguard the life we were eager to build together. The sadness of losing a family connection was real, but it paled in comparison to the resolve I felt to protect the love Madison and I shared. "We're doing the right thing," Madison murmured as she wrapped her arms around me, her presence a reassuring balm to the sting of familial betrayal. "Yes, we are," I replied, holding her close. "We're choosing us, our future, and nothing and no one is going to stand in the way of that." The day of our wedding dawned bright and clear, the sun casting a warm glow that seemed to promise a fresh start, far removed from the turmoil that had marred the months leading up to it. The intimate setting by the river, just as Madison had envisioned, was adorned with wildflowers and soft, flowing fabrics, creating a sanctuary from the world and the wounds inflicted by my own family. As I stood at the altar, watching Madison approach, radiant and smiling, every step she took seemed to heal a part of the pain my stepfather Richard and stepbrother Derek had caused. The betrayal and manipulation that had once threatened to overshadow this day faded into the background, overshadowed by the love and support of those who truly mattered. Our vows were more than promises to each other. They were affirmations of our resilience, declarations that despite the efforts to pull us apart, here we stood, together and stronger than ever. I choose you, today and every day, to be my partner, to stand by you in joy and in challenge. Madison's voice was a balm, her words washing over me, soothing the scars left by family betrayals. My response was just as heartfelt, a pledge to build with her a haven of peace, a home where the shadows cast by Richard and Derek's scheming could no longer reach us. The reception was a celebration of love and a testament to endurance. It was also a moment of reflection. Dancing with Madison, surrounded by friends who had stood by us, I realized the full extent of what we had overcome. The manipulations by Richard, the unsettling betrayals by Derek, they had tested us, but here, in this moment, they had no power. Later, as the twilight mingled with the fairy lights, Madison's news that we were going to be parents ignited a surge of joy and hope that felt almost redemptive. "We're going to have a baby, Adam. We're going to be parents," she revealed, her eyes alight with happiness and perhaps a touch of relief. This new life symbolized more than our union. It was a sign that out of the trials and the pain, something pure and full of potential could emerge. Holding Madison close as we watched the sunset paint the sky, I couldn't help but feel a profound sense of peace. The trials with my family had been harrowing, but they had also shown me the incredible strength of the bond between Madison and me. They had tried to divide us, to use our love as a weapon against us, but in the end, they had only deepened our commitment to each other. As the night drew to a close, I looked around at the joyful faces of our friends and family, then down at Madison, my wife, my partner in life, and soon, the mother of my child. Despite the pain my family had caused, they had inadvertently forged in us a resilience that was unbreakable. We had weathered the storm, and as we stood on the brink of this new chapter, I knew that together we could face anything. The future was bright, filled with the promise of love, laughter, and the sweet anticipation of our growing family. No shadow from the past could dim the light that we held within us, a light that would guide us through whatever lay ahead.